Okay, we're going to get started. Um, it is a pleasure for me to introduce primapress and welcome them to our school. Pablo Rojas Böttner and Catalina Briones, who is somewhere in the room. I lost her. Oh, over there. Are here to give a bookmaking workshop with our students over the weekend. And as part of that workshop, they'll be presenting their work today to us. I met Pablo and Catalina for the first time in person today, earlier today, but we've been in remote conversation with each other for at least the past 2 years, working together on a book on photography that I made of Syracuse. And this process, this 2-year-long process, has unveiled a very particular approach to bookmaking and architectural bookmaking that I consider quite unique. There is a passion that is embedded into the work that they produce and the care with which they approach each and every one of their projects. Pablo and Catalina are both architects that graduated from Universidad de Chile, where Pablo leads a studio under the title Cheap How, where he collaborates with Catalina and Diego. And this studio is quite interesting because I think that it embodies, and as a pedagogical project, a lot of the attitudes that you will see imprinted, no pun intended, into these books that he'll be presenting today. An interest in craft, an interest in construction, an interest in the handmade and the readily available materialities. That pedagogical project is recently been extended into a form of, into a practice where they all three of them collaborate under the name FAIL, which is a very intriguing name that I'm sure we'll hear more about, at least in attitude, as an approach to a design problem. So, yeah, I think I covered it all. Join me in welcoming Pablo and Catalina.
Thank you. Thank you, Edgar. This will be a lot of more easy if it's going to be in Spanish, but I'll try to do my best. Good evening, and thank you for being here. My name, as Edgar said, is Pablo, and today I want to talk about primapress. This is our editorial project in our practice. We have also an office, and we also teaching, so we do the three things. Primapress is a publishing practice based in Chile, focused on architecture and recent in photography. So, primapress began from a simple conviction that a book is not a container, a book is a project, and publishing is not something that happens after the work is done, it's part of the work itself. We operate through an author-driven approach, close to the logic of the artistic book. Format, paper, printing, binding, content, and layer are not secondary decisions. They are the language of the publication. Each book is a test that is related with our practice FAIL. We want to test to fail. A new way of assembling images, text, materials, and constraint into something that can be read, handled, open, and keep. That also means we treat the book as a site of friction. We are interested in objects that force decision. Do you open it or not? Do you keep the envelope? Do you break the seal? Is the packaging part of the book? We like when a publication is not fully passive, when it adds something from the reader. At the same time, primapress is built on an economy of means. not an aesthetic of poverty, but as a method, working with what is available, optimizing paper formats, reducing operation, controlling costs, and turning limitation into rules. Sometimes we print 50 copies, sometimes 100, sometimes 300, sometimes 500, depending on what the project needs and what is can sustain. This economy is also social. Making books mean build relationships with authors like Edgar, editors, designers, printers, binders, and the many forms of knowledge that appear along the way. We have often produced books through a studio-based workflow, taking responsibility for the full chain of production, because that is how we can expand possibility, control decisions, and keep projects alive without depending entirely on the external funding. So the topic of this lecture we call how we make some books. Has 3 chapters. The first is a series of architectural representation that contains, I think, 3 books. The second part is a series of making that also had 3 or 2 books. And the last one is as found condition that we are going to show 3 books project. So the first, we winded the call and invited, this is the PRIMA, the first project is PRIMA the scene, the second project is PRIMA the book, and the third project is plans, is from the architectural office called BTA or Bangkok Tokyo Architects. So in PRIMA the scene, this is the years, it's a long project, it's 4 years. We invited TED office, 5 critics, and this is the 5 section. The original project has 5 sections, but now we are already printed 5. For example, first PRIMA is related with section, the second with plans, the third with elevation, the fourth with axonometrics, and 5 in perspective, and the 6 is around models. So in this project, we winded the call and invited 24, this is the wrong page, yeah. Yes. We call it PRIMA, this project, because it referred to something initial, first gesture, and opera prima. But the project was never meant to be the first attempt. It was a position, a way of saying that representation is never neutral, that the representation is always hide a project. Of course, we are talking about architectural representation. So PRIMA is a series about architectural representation. The idea was to bring together Chilean architectural office, but through a very specific lens, not simply what they build, but how they represent what they build. And in many cases, this became the first printed publication for the office involved. That is the name also PRIMA, reinforcing our interest in working with emerging practice that have not been widely published yet. So the series is structured around 6 modes of representation. Each issue is built as a device. We invite 2 architectural office and 1 architectural critique. The office are selected because their project intention are clear reflect in the medium of that issue. Each issue contributes around 10 drawings and a short text and 300 or 500 words. The critics writes an autonomous essay of 700 to 900 words, and it's not to explain the project, but to open a critical position of the medium itself. So this is the first project, and the first book is PRIMA 1. They call the constructive, because it's around sections, and the section in terms of constructive methods. So we do the color blue because in relation with the blueprint, this type of representation. So we use 1 color only, and with that color we mix it in 2 different ways. So white line or blue line. And also had an insert. This is the insert. It's inside of this folded project. This is the second number. This is around plants. This is the third around elevation, and the fourth is about axonometric drawings. So This is our two office, the text of the critics, and also like a manifesto text that we made for this publication. So here is the process. Formally, PRIMA is a folded polyptych, a fan-folded structure that folds established rules. It's read page by page like a book, but also can be unfolded into a poster. This duality forces us to rethink layout constantly. Drawing rotate, text interrupt, and the sequence becomes more playful and active. So that is Catalina. Yeah. In terms of production, PRIMA was first fully self-funded project, so economy was essential. Each issue uses one assigned color, printed in offset, and we work through positive or negative figured and ground to create different visual appearance without changing inks. The format is also optimized the press sheets and the offset machine, working closely with a commercial poster printed. We work with that commercial poster printed because it's more cheap. This is the inside of the pages. And this is the 5 issues. So the next project is an extension of the first project, but in this time in a book. And we expand the offices, so now it's 24 Chilean architectural office. Each one contribute with 5 drawings, producing a collection of 120 architectural representations. And also the result is an atlas, a body of work that can be read as an archive of position rather than a catalog of authors. That is part of the process. And this is the thing, a key editorial chief is that all the drawings are printed in 2 colors, black and silver. Unlike the first phase, we are not separating representation types through different graphic identities. Here, everything is treated as a continuum with subtle transition between offices and drawing. So the reader, that is the first cover we did, and this is all the author and the different section, you know, like essays, plan, elevation section, axonometric perspective model. This is like a catalog of plans. This is only a part of the whole plan. This is like, yeah, like 20 plans of around 120 drawings. Yeah, for the writing, that is next. This time we invited 10 international architects and offices to write 10 essays about representation on representation. Just like in the first phase, the texts are autonomous. They do not explain the drawings, and they do not work as a caption. They exist as a parallel document. And the reader decides whether to connect them to the images. That is one of the kind of text, and this is the text of the international critics. Structurally, the book opens with international essays, then playing the drawings, and then closes with manifestos written for the office. This is the manifesto of the office. So this is the book. PRIMA, the book is conceived in a large format to give the drawing robust physical presence on the page. This project is supported by the Fondart. This is a funding from the National Funding of the Development of Culture in Chile, and it's printed, like I said, in offset black and white, black and silver, and finished with saw driving. So the third project in this idea of project as architectural representation is plans. So plan is a series also entirely focused on architectural floor plans. The idea is simple: to produce a large format publication, almost like a folded newspaper, printed in black and white, and showing a curated selection of plans from a young architectural international practice. So that is the book. What we are looking for are plans that are vertical in the way that represent architecture, simply, clear, almost blunt, but at the same time complex to read. For us, architectural drawing is never just a neutral representation. A plan is already a project. It carries cultural decisions, intellectual position, and a critical way of thinking. In that sense, the large format matters. Even when a plan could technically be printed small, here it's a bit oversized. That scale creates a more immersive way of reading the drawing. So another important thing is plans is printed on a fragile newsprint that was difficult to find, almost like a discontinued paper, but intentional, cheap, and ordinary. The sheets are simply folded with no binding, and we printed black at around 90%. So the paper translucency becomes controlled and intentional. In terms of production, the drawings were printed in offset, combined with black inkjet, and the final object is assembled through folding and sewing machine, stitching inside the envelope and making the packaging part of the books. So you have to break the envelope. The different plans are ordered in different scale, to 1 to 50 to 1 to 100. This is 1 to 100. This is the catalog of project of the office. And contains a text about the office, where the office. And you can see the whole project here. So the second part is we call a series on making. It's also a series that we are working on. And the first book of this series is called CASA, or house. We are printed 4 numbers of that project, and the second book in that idea is mesa cachalote, or cachalote-like table. So, CASA. CASA is a project about construction process, about what happens between drawings and the finished photograph. We start with a simple idea, a simple observation. Architectural publications often shows plans and sections extremely small, heavily edited, and frequently without the construction detail that actually makes a building possible. At the same time, there is an enormous amount of material produced during construction, drawings printed for the job site, revision, notes, and photographs taken constantly on site that rarely becomes public. With CASA, we wanted to bring that material back into the book. So the series focused on one of the more common typology in contemporary practice, especially for young architects, the single-family house. But instead of treating the house as a final object, CASA treated in a sequence of decision, adjustment, and realities that only appear through process. So in this publication, we never show the finished project. The projects are always in construction. Also because if you want to see like final pictures of a project, it's more easy to look in internet. But this material is only here in this publication. That is why the scale is important. We are interested in working with drawings closer to the scale where architecture is actually built, to 1 to 50, 1 to 25, and 1 to 10. So scales that allow details, joints, and constructural logic to be read as a part of the project, not as appendix. This is the interior, and that is the drawings. We always start this publication with the the site photograph, not with the actual construction. This is a renovation of a cheap house in Chile. So this is the site in this case. So we usually try to match the photographs with the drawings because all the photographs are took by the architects, so they are never think about publishing these photos. Is mostly for correction, for internal process of the office. So usually we put a photograph with a drawing that in a way match with the photograph for this, like this example or this. No, this is like a structural drawing, but match with the construction process of the facade or this. The books also includes photographs of the work in progress, not polished final images, but the kind of documentation architects already produce while building. Temporary condition, unfinished surface, tools, scaffoldings, materials, and moment of uncertainty. The goal is not to romanticize the construction site, but to show that making is where architecture becomes real. In the end, CASA is a series about process, but also about access to the internal material of architecture, and to the scale and the documents that are normally stay behind the scenes. We play a lot with the folded pages, so the section in this case turns around the page, or we, for more like a bigger size, we turn the elevation, or this like section, detail section, that is in 4 parts. You see 2, but it's in 4 parts. This is the final image of the publication. You can see the house is not already complete. And we also do this kind of postal here in risograph in 2 colors that are into the publication. And here we're going to show you the 4 projects. Very quick. So the next project in this idea of making is Mesa Cachalote. Cachalote is a type of whale. That is because of the size of the table. There is the book. And this publication document a complete process, but through a single object, a table. It follows the project from the very beginning, from searching for the tree that would become the table in Rio Pueblo, to the table finally installed inside the Palacio Pereira in Santiago. The table was commissioned as a part of the restoration of Palacio Pereira. There is a public building in Chile. It was a direct commission to Matías Segers, who decided to collaborate with Alejandro Luer. What matters here is not the final image, but the chains of the decision behind it. Collecting the log, transporting it, fabricating, assembling it, and placing it in its final space. We always do these different samples of books. We usually try different size, different thick. A key detail is that even the fabrication tool was part of the process. The CNC machine used for the table was custom built for this project by Alejandro Luer, a homemade setup assembled from parts. And the main photographic record was made by Michael Segers, combining color and black and white images. Like this. Alongside the photographs, the book includes drawing, plans, and handwritten material, and it's also contains an interview that I conduct with the architects in 2025. Editorially speaking, we wanted the book to behave like a construction itself, layered, sequential, and precise. We used two different papers, a white paper for the photographic record and a yellowish cream paper for the interview, drawings, and plans. A small reference to Matthias Seger's own sketchbook. So I want to go back. So that is the sketch from the sketchbook of the architects. So we use the same paper, but rescan all the drawings. So that is the center of the publication and also the interview. The structure of the books is organized as a concentric rings. I think in the other, yeah, that is the concentric rings. You know, we cut the center of the pages so it's smaller than the book. Like the rings of a tree trunk, from the outside you move inwards through layers of images until you reach the core. The drawings and the plans are the core. The interview section is printed on a slightly narrow paper, create a solid cutoff when you look at the book from the inside. That is the drawing. Also the size of the publication has a relationship with the size of the table because it's a long table. Also the publication is a long publication, very narrow. And because everything is folded into a single booklet, a simple pamphlet binding, the book doesn't impose a fixed order. It can be read front to back or back to front or open everywhere in between. Minimal, functional, but carefully made. This is some scanning of the books. This is the first page. In terms of production, the cover is built through a simple multiple techniques. The dust jacket is screen printed. The cover has embossing, and the interior combines HP Indigo printed and inkjet and screen printed. Sorry. Our first time using HP Indigo partly as an economical decision. So this is the journey from the collector of the tree. They convert the tree like this kind of boat. This is in the middle of nowhere in Chile, and they cannot cut the tree. It's like a reuse of a trunk that is already there. That is for terms of regulation. That is the working on the CNC machine that is custom made, and they disassemble when they finish the table. These are the hand drawings. Very beautiful hand drawings. This is the table. It's a very long table. I don't remember the size, but it's more like 10. Yeah, it's more than 10 meters long. I don't know the size in inches. Sorry. Yeah. And this is the moment when they have to enter from the window the table. Very critical moment because the palace is already renovated, so they cannot took in any way the palace. Very scary moment for the architects. They really don't remember with much care. Very stressful. And that is the final table. So this is the trunk cut in half. That is the final part. We also added like a, I forget this word, bitagora, like a journal of the first time they arrived in a plane. So to the final time is like 2 years to complete this table to the architects. That is the ring that I was talking about on the cut. And the cover this time is the table in plan. It's silk screen. And that is the whole book. So the final chapter is as found conditions. There is the concept around these 3 books. These are photo books. Future Fossils is the first name of the first book we did with photographs. The second is Lima, it's a city in Peru, from the photographer architect Cristobal Palma. And the last one, you know that person, is Edgar. I don't know if you are very attached with Edgar or not. And it's called Forma Vernacular. So, Future Fossils is by the architect Eduardo Corrales, and with a text with the Chilean artist Javier Toro Blum. The books begin with the text. Sorry. Yeah. The books begin with the text, setting the tone, and then gradually moves into a dialogue between writing and photography. Even though the text was not originally conceived as a response to images, our editorial decision was to interlace both materials, to create a rhythm where the text and photographs coexist, interrupt each other, and expand each other. The book closes with an images and starts with a language and ends with photography. So the first, when we took this project, they want to do the text only in the first pages, so we split it in different parts and we mix it with the photographs. And I think worked very well, and they are very happy with that idea. So we separate in different concepts, and sometimes are related with photographs. Also, that give a book and structure, because we have to rearrange the order of the photographs to try to match it with the text. This book is also in English. Sorry, I took the Spanish part, my bad. The photographs were taken with an analog camera during different trips between South America and Portugal. They show a wide range of construction, vernacular buildings, ruins, barn houses, and also more canonical architectural reference, like this and the other. And these are very famous architectural reference, moving between the urban essence, rural environment, and landscape. A central idea in the book is time. The text suggests that what the images capture is not only architecture, but the passage of time itself, matter shaping by inhabitation, weather, and daily interactions. In that sense, the photography becomes a way of turning experience into a trace, fixing a present moment into the chemical and mechanical reality of film. The photograph doesn't just document a building, it's fossilized, turning into a future ruin. That is why this publication calls Future Fossils. Editorially, we keep the cover simple and strong, using a dark tone to echo the idea of fossilization. The interior is printed on recycled paper, reinforcing the material logic of the title. That is the book. Unlike our large format publication, Future Fossils is closer to a pocketbook, a deliberate choice to optimize paper use and keep the project direct and unpretentious. So, the next project is called LIMA. It's a large format photo book by Cristobal Palma on the city of the same name in Peru. It's photograph only with no text. The books present a selection of 54 color photographs, started in 2018 and remains an open project, meaning the archive keeps growing over time. The book looks at Lima outside the postcard. The photographs come from the roots Palma took while documenting architectural projects or simply walking the city on his own. What started as a casual record gradually became a project. All photographs are exterior and they are mainly facades or facades. There are no people in the images. The city appears through surface, edges, shadows, walls, and the photographs often feel monolithic or abstract, with a very strong emphasis on composition, even when the motifs are heterogeneous. Anonymous neighborhood overlook modern architecture, hills, vegetation, commercial buildings. The sequence stays coherent because the photographic language is consistent and rigorous. The book also proposes a kind of a visual route across different areas and atmospheres of Lima, but it refuses a perfectly linear narrative. The sequence is constantly interrupted. The sequence is constantly interrupted by small cuts, car, vegetation, fragment, texture, moment that breaks the idea of a smooth itinerary and keep the city open and complete and real. So the golden color is also related with the city, with Lima. It's a very famous colonial city that extracts gold. And also in the architecture is very present the idea of the gold. So the book has a cloth-covered dust jacket with the title in gold hot stamping, and the cover itself carry an emboss that called Lima. The gold detail works as a subtle echo of the city, surface, and atmosphere. Almost a small fragment of brightness that appears across the photographs. That is part of the working process also. In generally, we work in digital, but always work like imprinted or with mock-ups. We never took decisions directly in the computer. It's only like the last step to use the computer. So because the book is not like a PDF, you need to touch it, you need to go through the pages to feel the weight or the size. All that you cannot do that in a PDF. There's the final image that shows, it's the more general images that shows a fragment of the city. You can see this is only fragment, but the last images is more a general approach to the city. So, what you are waiting for? Forma Vernacular by Edgar Rodriguez, had a prologue by Jesus Basayo, it's a Spanish important architect. So that is the book. Hope you are happy with the book. It's too late. It's too late. We need a meeting, a private meeting. Okay. So the project belongs to what we call advanced condition. It began from the attention rather than intention, daily walks, ordinary routes, and the discipline of looking for what is already there. That is part of the process. That is Catalina in socks. We work with usually like very small mock-ups of draft because we are more into the extension or we need to look very fast. So in a larger format, it's more difficult. In this book, it's important that architecture not as a masterpiece, but as a condition. Edgar is not a professional photographer, and that is part of the book's strength. Most of the images were taken with their phone, and they come from Syracuse here. The work becomes an archive built through repetition, where pattern appears across the city. That is all the mock-ups. I think we have more, but that is all the testing we did, trying to figure out the book. That is the dust jacket. So color is a key editorial decision here. We wanted the object to echo the pop commercial language of American architecture, ordinary, direct, and highly recognizable. The dust jacket is bright pink, and the outside, or on the interior, is silver on the inside. The title is printed with silver hot stamping, and the cover has a subtle debossing. This is the scanning of the interior of the book. You can see. In terms of production, this is one of the few projects we printed through a professional workflow. Offset printing with a SUI binding is also supported by the funding subvention of the university. So in terms of materiality, this is one of the essay, and the other essay is the Jesus, is the prologue. So in terms of materiality, we use the same paper throughout. The name of the paper is Munken Links in 3 different weights, 90, 130, and 300, to separate cover, text, and images. Texture also matters. The dust jacket is highly tactile, inviting physical interaction. We expanded a little bit the format. Edgar, you wanted a little bit more smaller, but then we expanded and works very well. That is more the idea of the color you can see in that images. That is the whole book. Mostly commercial building in general. If you can see, the order we propose is a relationship between forms, like typology, and also color. Here, you can see it's more like bright color, then more brownish, more white, but also formally are very related, like flat roof, and so on. So to close, I wanted to insist on something simple. We don't publish book to document architecture. We publish book to test it. For us, representation is not a neutral language. It's already a position. Making is not a backstage. It's where architecture becomes real. And as the as found is not accidental, it's a way of learning how the world is already built. So primapress is not about the title. It's about the method, about turning constraints into rules and rules into objects that can be read. If there is one ambition behind all of this, it is this: to make books that don't just sit on a shelf, but books to act, books that ask something to the reader, books that force decision, and books that leave traces. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Pablo. We'll move on to questions from the public. Great.
Hi, thank you very much for your lecture. I think the aesthetic of all your books is really beautiful. I'm curious about the structures that you take photos of the books on, and if you created those in the sets and what goes behind those.
Thank you. Thank you for your words. And yeah, you are right. We are exploring not also with the books, also with the way we want to represent the books. So, for example, scanning the books is a very new thing, but we think that is a very interesting way of reframing the work, because when you scan it, you can crop it. Appears other kind of texture of shadow that digital doesn't appear. So, sorry. If we look back, this is the cover, it's like a flat. But when we scanned this, I think we scanned the cover. Now, this is digital and this is scanned. Now, it also appears the hand. I think that is important. Appears more the texture, and also, yeah, it's like disappearing. So I think we are working, it's a working project the idea of how we can represent our books not only in like in a PDF, but becoming like more this dramatic, more like rough kind of represent our work. So yeah, the idea of the hand is very important, and the other is special for this presentation that we took pictures in this like scenario, very like related with our interest on construction, on simple things, on material that is work we do in the university. So we use it like a backstage for took photographs of our projects. So that is something we have to do in the workshop with our students, like how we represent this, because the final object is the printed thing. But maybe we can think about how we represent this in a digital format or in a presentation. Maybe it's a scan, maybe it's another kind of thing, maybe it's a photocopy. I don't know, but I think we can explore more on that. It's not like very new. I know a lot of other practice that do the same, but I think we can stress a little bit more that idea. So thank you for the question.
Hi, thank you for the lecture today. It was very interesting, and you and your partner, the work is very...
Sorry for my English.
Oh, no, it was okay. Everything was very good to understand.
Thank you.
But the question that I had was actually about like the process of the work, and sort of, I think in the beginning of your lecture, you mentioned like a lot of the process, you both try to sort of like control each like aspect. And does that extend all the way to like distribution, like how you get the books out, like do you sell them, things like that? Like what's that sort of flow like for these books?
Okay, yes, thank you. That is a very important part of having, we are architects, we are not graphic design, so we are not study like, I don't know, architecture is not very related with publication in the sense that we consume a lot of publication, but we are not part of that process usually. It's more like another enterprise. So we started distributing ourselves, like selling in our page and do the trade of the publication. And now we are working, for example, here in New York, our books are in printed matters, and also in another bookstore that is in East Village. I forget the name. And also we are now distributing in Japan in a distributor that is called 12 Books. And also we are going to start to distribute our books with a distributor from Europe. It's called Ideas Book. But it's like you send an email, you say we are like a very young blah, blah, blah. We work with this kind of practice, very like self-made. We start this practice because in Chile we are like tired of the same type of publication, like very type of researcher kind of publication, a little bit boring for us. Not for everybody, but for us it's a little bit boring. So we started that project, and also because usually they public the same kind of architect in Chile, at least, like the same type of people, the same kind of men, blah, blah, blah. So with that critical thinking, we are like, when we are publish our work, these other editorials. So we started our own practice to publish it people that are usually like overpassed. I hope that word is correct. And yeah, but we make a lot of mistake. We lost a lot of money. That is very true. It's not like heroic is at all, because we don't know nothing about this. So we printed and we mess up and printed again and printed again, and we have to pay a lot of mistakes. But we learn a lot about that. I mean, we with Catalina is over there in the column. So yeah, it's very interesting, very like satisfying, but also very sometimes frustrating, and you have to be very curious. We are starting to do a lot of more like fairs. We do a fair recently in Mexico. We do a fair in Tokyo, maybe sometime in LA, but it's very small. We started in 2018, so we are like 8 years almost. It's not like a very long, so it's a very, now it's, we are in our prime right now. And we are falling, yeah. We rise the top and now we are going down. No, but it's true. The things are now working a little bit more, but in the first times were very frustrating. So you have to be like very tough in that sense, in every architectural project, but also in this kind of project, because in the beginning it's always difficult.
Yeah. Well, you're not in your prime, Pablo. You're in your prima. No? Hey, big congrats for the work to you and to Cata. It's absolutely stunning to see all these beautifully hand made books. All of them are different. You know, like all of them is a journey in itself. And I do really appreciate all these sort of analogic approach. No, like the analogic pictures, the put hard copies on the wall, you know, like sewing by yourself sometimes is kind of strange today to see this kind of beautifully, you know, like products that in a way condense all this knowledge. And I guess my question here is when it's about the timeline, no? When is the idea of the book appearing? I mean, when it does pop up, is this something that is sort of considered by the authors in the very beginning of the project, or is this something that shows up in the end? No, because something that I am surprised with is how beautiful all the process pictures are, how beautiful and consistent all the pictures of the table from the sourcing to the logistics, how beautiful they are, how consistent they look like, how the colors, you know, is this something that the authors have in mind from the very beginning and work with you during the process, or is it just in the end that you talk about the book?
The answer has different parts. The first is the projects that I show you, I think maybe the 50% are commissions. For example, the book of Edgar was not a commission. We saw the pictures that Edgar published in Instagram. We are like close in that time. I do an interview to Edgar. So when I saw this picture, I say, wait, yeah, let's make a book. So then he finds out the funding and the other and pushes the project, but was like that. I think these pictures can signify something. You know, we can do this we can do something with that. And this book of Lima is also like it's more like a commission, but took a year to arrange this picture. It seems like very simple. Sometimes the commission and the author is very like intense, so they want to rearrange the picture like 500 times. I said, no, I don't think, maybe this can be in this part and that part. No, I think not in that pages. So it's a long process. This book took like a year and a half. We started like with 20 pictures, then 40, then 54, then 80s, and back and forth all the time. But in the process, you are like curating this thing because this is 45, but Cristobal showed us like around 400 pictures. So you have to look everything, printed everything, select, rearrange, and then the process is very long. In the case of Edgar, is almost the same. It's not like he gave us like 200 pictures and you choose like 50. In the book of CASA, it's the same. It's 900 pictures and we only use 15 images of 900. It's a very long process. And sometimes sometimes the idea is the same with architecture. Sometimes you think you have an idea, a very clear idea, but in the process it's very not very clear. But you have to be consistent. I know it's exactly the same in your case with the architecture, you know. And sometimes you nail it, and you say, yeah, this working. But sometimes you have to be like trusting yourself, and you know when something doesn't work, you know. If you are honest, you say, no, this is like S word. I can not say that. Okay, and you have to redo it. And it's the same with the printing. We reprint a lot of books because it's not like sufficient enough, you know. It's our money, but we want to be like very careful with not publishing everything. So I don't know if I answered at all, but the question. But sometimes you have to be patient, and the ideas appears. And sometimes you have idea, you see something is on Instagram or in pages, or you talk with a partner, or you talk with with other student, and you have to push the idea. You know?
We have another question back here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you again for this lecture. It's very interesting to see a less represented form of representation being shown in architecture school. I mean, in architecture school, usually for projects, we don't have books. But personally, I'm very interested in it. And one of my questions go from the fact that you guys used 3 weights of paper throughout the books. And I was thinking, what other ways have the physical experience or the physicality of books come into play when curating or designing books?
I want to relate the 2 questions, because the idea of the sorry, no, I messed up. My bad. The idea of the envelope appears very late in this project. Very, very late. We think that we are not this is the original project itself. It's just like we wanted to do like a big format in a news paper kind of type. We do it, we fold it, we use different size. The first like mock-up of testing are smaller, but you see and you say, no, this is not like big enough. No, I usually love large book. Catalina hates me when I say it's not big enough. So we try to do the biggest publication we can do in our offset printed. So that is the relation of this like size. This is the more large we can do. So that is the idea of physicality. Is not only the way of the paper, you know, because it's very fragile. It's tears apart very easily. You can like broke very easily this publication. But the idea of you have to open it and like almost like you are inside of the house of the plant. That is important in this publication because the plants are very simple. We can print it at a very small size and you look like the same. But when you see it in that size, it's also related with the physicality of the publication, not only in terms of tactile, also in terms of immersive kind of way. So the envelope was very late idea. We say, no, I don't know, I think it's like a little bit boring. We need something else, and we don't know what. We tried to different type of cover, and nothing functions. And then I think we saw something similar in a page or something. It's not the same, but similar, and we say, we can work. And when Catalina sew this with his machine, sometimes they broke. And I said to Catalina, what if this is like closed and the people have to break the envelope to open. It's a very casual idea. Usually the best idea are for something doesn't work or fail, and you say, but this not work, but maybe that is the way. And we try to do with different type of because sometimes we have to break and the subs like broken, so more like rigid, and we use other color, so for the reader difference when you should break and where is the envelope, so it's red when you have to cut it. Sorry, it's the other way. No. Oh, yes. I don't remember. Yes. This is red, So this is a test. This is not the final. But you can see this sometimes a little bit difficult. We gave this book with a lot of friends, and actually a lot of people, they do not, but they want to keep it that way, They don't want to break it. That is it's like a relic. It's like a precious book. Others like broke it, but others keep that way. So that is a way of interact with the person who are reading that. In the case of the book of Edgar, I think we have one copy, Catalina? Sorry. Also have a plastic, so we put like a sticker on the envelope, the plastic envelope, so it's the same. You have to break it, or you have to keep it that way, you have to open. The plastic you have to like throw in the trash, or you have to keep it. Edgar loves more the plastic than the book.
Yeah.
Sometimes appear.
When I saw that, I told Pablo that I'm going to scan just the plastic wrapper.
That is intentional because this is for the book that is not like give like trash or something. But if you have to cut it, because this you can throw away or you can keep it. So that is the same, like put you in a difficult position, what can I do with this? We usually try to play with that. Also, I think in the workshop, you should took the workshop. It's too late. It's the same. It's the same. You have to also think about this, how you interact with your reader or your other part.
Last question? Last question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo. Thank you, Catalina. Also for spending the weekend with our students. It's special for the 11 of them that we'll get to learn from you and work with you in this way for the weekend. The question's a little bit related to your answer to this last question, which is like the role that your amateur status plays in bookmaking. Like you said, you guys are not graphic designers. At some point, you'll no longer be able to say that. Like maybe you are now graphic designers. But I think there's a lot of opportunity that comes with like entering a discipline that's not one you're trained in, that affords opportunities to do things that are like quite literally unprecedented or unconventional because you're not burdened by industry standards and tropes. And I think the same goes for our students. Like, it's not often that a student studies architecture before they come to the university. So they come here knowing nothing. And in the first couple of years, they do weird things because they don't have a sense of if it's like other architecture or not. And I think that can be really invigorating for faculty, too, to see, like, well, why would you do that? Sometimes amazing things happen. But at some point, you settle into understanding what's expected and what the tropes are. And so I guess the question is, like, to what extent can you continue to take risks and experiment and try things that are unprecedented because you have all this knowledge now? It must be more difficult to try to take risks and be experimental.
Yeah, I still didn't feel that way, but probably we feel in that way in like a couple of years more. I think we learn a lot of our students. Even we do a few of these type of workshops about publication, but usually we teach like architectural studio. But we learn a lot about our students, and we try to encourage them to try things, to make like fails, and because probably there is the project. It's sometimes very difficult to understand the fail, because you try to rechazar,
Reject.
reject. You try to reject that fail, and it's no, this is not okay. This is not like, this is not the way. But when you are like a little bit more informed, you can appreciate that fail. When you know it's difficult, because it's painful. You say, no, my teacher gonna want to kill me myself for this, or kill me. So, yeah. And the other part that is important, usually when we started, a lot of people say to us, why you work with like a funding or like a company that gives you money and you put the logo of the company in your publication, and we are never do that until today, because we need a little bit of a space to try things that are not conventional, and maybe for the company not work, because we want to print it in full color, in full size, and we are like giving you money, so that is the way you have to do this, if you want the money. So in general, it's more difficult because it's difficult to find findings, but we try to work in a way that we usually take all the risks and we split the economy with the author. So they put the money and we put our work, because for us, more than a business, it's more important to do things, So that is the halfway to do things, to do like 50 copies that somebody can pay, somebody like, I can say like normally not like a millionaire people, and we put our 50%, that is our work, our passion, our time, and we sell some of this book, and we try to retain some of the money. But that is, in this time, the way we are working, because we are more interested in try things and put ideas in around the world, I can say, and yeah.
All right. That's
Okay.
all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.